his 5 questions where I answered them. This is my questions to him, but not only him, but any other theists. That includes Christians, Muslims, and any other people who believe in a personal deity. The first question came up as part of Gary's questions was one about if something is unexplainable by science, blah de blah de blah, why don't we sort of allow it to be magic? And he mentioned the Turin Shroud, and the Turin Shroud has been explained by science. It's a medieval fake. But this leads to my first question. Why do theists need to provide scientific evidence for their beliefs, for their God? What does this need in them to do so? Now, when it comes to the Shroud, Gary mentioned 2 people. I think one of his recent research, he said, proved that it was 1st century. And that was a guy called Phoneybeetlemaniacxs and somebody else called Rogers. I think it was Raymond Rogers he mentioned. I had a look at the papers by both of those gentlemen. I'm not a qualified scientist, I'll say that now, even though I have somebody in my family who is. But I know enough about science, and especially about radiation, because I worked with radiation for 10 years, to know that basically what they were talking about was bullshit. You can go online and see people who were scientists who will go and they will evaluate their work, and it shows that they are basically making stuff up. They're massaging the figures. Rogers published in a journal that he founded, and he got a favour, and he published shortly before he died, because he was probably too embarrassed to publish it if he was going to live long enough to get the feedback from his peers, because they would have ripped the shit out of him. Fante has lied on camera. He was shown on camera tweezing out a sample of cloth from the shroud, when in fact he didn't have any full threads or samples to work on. What he had was dust that was hoovered out from between the 2 different layers of the cloth. It was sub-millimeter particles. It was a mix of cotton and linen from the backing and from the cloth itself, and all the detritus that had built up there over the years. And yet he claims that the tests on that there are more valid than the tests on the samples that were removed from the main body of the shroud. Again, people are laughing at him. It's a joke. The reason why this isn't taken seriously is that it's not serious science. They set out, if you read, they both are believers in the shroud's authenticity. That is their starting premise. That is what they're setting out to prove. That's not the way science is done. Science tries to disprove what you're trying to prove. You start out by trying to disprove it. You try everything to disprove it. And if you can't disprove it, at the end you have to accept that it is what it is. You don't do it the other way around. And these guys didn't follow that procedure, and they are not being scientific. They're acting on their feelings. It's not just them. There's other ones. There's Ken Ham and Ian Juby providing fake evidence for the flood. And there's Michael Behe, who famously stood up in a trial, Kitzmiller Dover, I think it was, and said that, this is a theory because things are irreducible, therefore everything was designed, and the intelligence design is a scientific theory. And that was basically ripped to shreds in court. He knew, all these guys know before they do any of this stuff, what they're saying is lies, but they go ahead and do it anyway because there's this desire in them to prove that their religion is true. And I want to know why. What is it about Christians, theists, that they need this, have this desire to prove something that should be held on faith? So, it's question number 1.
Okay, that's question 1. Now, why do again, I don't like being classified with people like Behe or people like Ken Ham or people like that. Now, again, I'll fall wherever the science leads. Again, again, the tourist round, I was only discussing because I've heard little bits of like there were discussions about it, and again, I'm always opening to new avenues of experimentation, and if there was a flaw in the process, that we should experiment with that. I'm not saying, oh well, it 100% proves my point. No, even let's say it wasn't from the 13th century. Let's say that everybody was wrong and that these people, Fanti and Raymond Rogers were right. I'm not saying they were. I'm just saying, let's say for argument's sake they were. Doesn't prove my beliefs. Let's say, for example, it was really the table of Jesus. It could have just been. There's weird shit that happens in human processes all the time. It doesn't have to be God or anything. There are parts of the human biochemical things that happen just naturally. That again could be explained by natural methods. Again, there's no way prove that Christianity or Christ or whatever that is just something odd that needs exploring. How did they get UV rays in the 13th century or in the 1st century or whenever it was done? I don't care when it was done. I'm just saying that if people are saying, oh well, there might have been error, science is all about correcting error, and again, I don't see what the problem is. And that was my point to you, Tom, is that again, if there was an error made, even if there's a slightest 1.1% chance it could happen, they need to check on it, double check. And I don't see that there's a problem with that. There was a thing not too long ago about some Italian physicists, they got disproven as well, trying to disprove the theory of relativity, which is probably one of the most intrinsic theories in all of science. Now, they got shot down in flames, but the least they went about it, and nothing else was lost. Oh yeah, it's good to see them all 1 minute just to cut a little bit off. Say, but right, we just proved it again. Just stop it. Again, it doesn't. Again, but again, to answer your question in the why do we need science, or why do we need this particular faith? Now, I'll answer this for myself. Again, I need science. I need things to back up my proof because again, I understand that I'm a flawed human being, and as such, I'm privy to the flaws and dealings that come like that. There are a lot of things that can privy my thinking to think a certain way. Now, I also am aware of the fact that I have certain aspects of my life that unfortunately lead me towards certain mental outcomes, and I don't mean that all mentally unwell. I mean that I am predisposed to having mental ill episodes, and therefore flaws in my thinking may occur and probably do occur because of that. And it would be flawed of me not to take that into account whenever I come to a conclusion or to an opinion I may hold. So that's what I personally need something to base it upon, even if it's a wrong perception from somebody else's point of view. Like, for example, my points about, for example, the pocket universes, that sort of thing. That's why I did that video, to show why I personally do think that it does point to a God. In my perception, again, your perception could be different, and that's fine. But I need that, otherwise I could just be, basing my opinion or based upon bad assumptions, based on my own faulty thinking. And again, you have to base your thinking on logic and reason. Otherwise, you might as well just be thinking that the moon's made of blue cheese, or the Earth rolls, the Earth flips upside down. That's the reason that we get that day. Again, it's bad thinking. Again, if you can't base your faith upon what we see, then it's a bad faith, as St. Augustine said.
Sorry, it went on a bit long, but there's a bit of baggage behind it. Question number 2 follows on from question number 1. Is it okay to lie for Jesus? Given that all these guys have lied, they must have known what they were saying was untrue. They must have known that methods they were using were not accurate, and that they were just trying to achieve a goal. It's deception. Deception is lying. Is it okay to lie for Jesus? Okay? Many other people have done it. Ted Haggard, loads of others who led life as a lie, said one thing, done another. Is it okay? Okay, quick.
Now again, you say lie again. I'll agree with you with Ted Haggard and Ted Ham. I don't think that the people that I linked to lied, because people could be mistaken. People make mistakes. Unfortunately, that's what the scientific method is there for. It isn't saying that people lie or what's the word, twisting the truth to fit their point of view. It's there to point out when people. It's there to say, look, your conclusions about that object are wrong, and here's what the truth is. It's basically self-correction. It isn't in any way saying, oh, well, you're a liar for thinking this. Because again, saying somebody's a liar is a very high thing, and we don't do it unless we have absolute proof that's what happened. And calling somebody a liar is a bit inflammatory, because otherwise someone could say, well, you're lying, because again, you don't know that for a fact that I was lying. I was incorrect, or my phone call was incorrect. Again, but to answer the question, no, it's not right to lie. For any reason, whether it's, for Jesus, whether it's to protect your own back, whether it's to do anything. Because again, I don't believe deception gets you anywhere, but mistrusted by people. If you did something bad or wrong, you should admit it and face the consequences. Because then you'll be known as somebody with integrity. And integrity, again, breeds, So, because, again, we all make mistakes. We all make errors. We all make things that, if we had a time machine, we'd go back and change. But unfortunately, we don't. So, we have to live with the consequences of our actions and our words, and sometimes it's better to face the music than it is to tell lies. But some people will just tell lies because it makes them it makes them feel better.
Question 3: why do Christians and Muslims, most theists, condemn homosexuality? But this is specifically for Christians, this one. Why do Christians condemn homosexuality while ignoring all of the other Levitical laws? Because Jesus quite clearly pointed out the fact that you are to obey all of the old laws. He reiterated that despite the woman taken in sin, or whatever you would, don't cast the first stone. That's obviously an addition later on. Most people are agreed that that's an addition, doesn't appear in the originals, it's added later. Some people say, oh, it was taken out from the originals and then added in later. There's no evidence for that, as far as I can see. So I think somebody's made that up so that they can get divorced or have sex with their friend's wife or whatever. But there are lots of other laws there. Don't eat bacon, don't eat shellfish, don't wear trousers if you're a woman. Women aren't allowed to speak in church. Women must obey their husbands. You're allowed to own slaves. You're allowed to kill your slaves as long as it takes 3 days for them to die, etc, etc, etc. Stone people on a Sunday. Kill your children if they're unruly. All of those laws. Why is it okay to ignore them, but you're fixated on homosexuality? I want to know why that is. That's never been fully answered to my satisfaction.
Okay, let's deal with the first bit, which you get incorrect. It was taken out and put back in again. And this isn't. You said there's no evidence. Actually, biblical scholarship says that is the case. And again, I'm not saying I'm a biblical scholar, far from it. I'm just saying that that's what's the common, the scholarly consensus based upon textual evidence and stuff like that. That it was taken out and put back in again. From the oldest transcripts that we have, it seems to be the case. Now, the whole thing about isn't about the stoning, because again it's about impropriety and how impropriety is forgiven. So it's not necessarily about the old laws being forgiven. So again, it not necessarily proven that case, Tom. So again, if someone says to you, "Oh, well, that proves that you don't have to follow the old," no, it doesn't. Again, it comes from Jesus himself, because he was taught, because everything from Jesus is talking about the Ten Commandments. everything to do with Jesus' life is in context with the Ten Commandments. The fact that he goes to Egypt, the fact that his birth is mirroring the second Ten. The fact that a lot of the old laws was something that the Pharisees were doing, and he was saying that was wrong. You're being so legalistic, and that's what's wrong. Now, to the second part of the question, I don't know why some Christians are so fixated on opposite. I'm not. I get it. What you choose to do, the privacy of your own bedroom is your own choice. If you kiss your boyfriend, girlfriend, delete where appropriate, that's fine as long as it's legal, consensual. Don't care. What I do care about is when it gets beyond that and it's public. When it's like physical groping or it's inappropriate touching, then I mind. And that goes for both. That goes for both hetero and homosexual. That sort of thing. Because again, it doesn't matter that you're straight or you're gay. I just mind you following each other up when the small kids. There's people who again, I don't want to see that. Never mind bloody kids. I don't want to see that. It's inappropriate. If you want to do that, fine. Do it in the privacy of your own home. Don't care. Let's say for example, everything that Tom said is right. I've got my own things to worry about. I don't have time to worry about what everybody else wants to do. Again, I don't have any tattoos because it says not to do it. I try not to eat soulfish. I try and not work on Sabbath, but again, I need the money at the moment, so I realize that sometimes that's not even possible. I try and do the things it says to do in the Old Testament when it sets up proper laws. Again, I don't own slaves, but again, I wouldn't own it anyway, because I don't think that men should be in bondage, because Jesus said they shouldn't. And people go, oh, but Jesus did it for but yeah, he did. He talked about bondage a lot, and he wasn't talking about that. It wasn't talking about whips and chains. He was talking about slavery, because a lot of the Jews were slaves. Yeah, and he was talking about the Jews should be free of their slaves, and the Gentiles should be free as well. Interesting thing. So again, you see there's no evidence for it, but again, biblical scholarly consensus says it is. So again, if you want to say it isn't, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm just going on what the academia says. That's all.
Okay. The next one is, given that the only way to salvation is to believe in God and accept Jesus as your Saviour. This is what we're always being told. Why has God made me sceptical? Why has God made me unable to accept the Bible? Why has God done this to me, knowing full well that the result will be me ending up in torture forever? He's made me unable to commune with Him. I've tried that. He hasn't provided any evidence. People say the Bible's evidence. No, it's not. The Bible's a story, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing compelling about it. I've read it many times. There's all these things like the Shroud. The Shroud is not compelling evidence, even if it was proved to be first century. It would still only be a first century cloth with a painting of a man on it, painted with iron oxide. That's nothing miraculous about that there. So he's made me sceptical. He's made it impossible for me to commune with Him. He's basically provided me with no evidence, and yet when I die, if Christians are right and I'm wrong, He's going to torture me forever in a lake of fire. So I want to know why He's done this to me. Can you give me an answer? Okay? Never been answered to my satisfaction. No.
I'm a Unitarian, so again, a lot of the stuff doesn't really apply to me. But again, I am shifting to Quakerism. Yeah, again, I've been announcing that. I've been thinking about it. It's probably going to happen before long. But again, I will answer. The lake of fire doesn't exist in Christian theology. It's something that got eschewed from paganism. In relation to Gehenna and Hades and Tartarus, which Jesus was talking about. Now, Gehenna was a fire pit in the middle of Israel that the Jews to resolve themselves of their wrongdoings, because again, fire was in the ancient world anyway, in the ancient Near East, was all of the world actually was a solvent agent. It cleanses you. If you wanted to purify yourself, you'd throw stuff into it. So basically, they'd throw the worldly goods, because a lot of people in that area of Judea started to turn away from God and turn to child sacrificing paganism, and that basically what the thing was about. It wasn't about sending people into a lake of fire, or torturing people for all mankind, or having a demon stick a poker up your ass. It doesn't nothing about that. It's all about that. And this isn't me just being apologist. No, this is about it being truthful. This is what it is. Now, there are certain Christian groups, and I probably was in, but it's more like the fire that actually is more like simplified there. It's more symbolic of purifying us all, because we all come with our sins, and it's all about purifying us of our wrongdoings. Now, you say, why is God made you skeptical? Because you have a brain, and you think, and again, we all come to vastly different conclusions based upon what we see around us. If we didn't, then life would be boring, and I don't think God likes life to be boring. Again, I don't like speaking for the creator of the universe, I don't like using the word he, but again, I don't think God likes life to be boring. He likes conversation, he likes debate, because that's the way that we grow as a species, is the fact that we can discuss things, we can, be intellectual about subjects, the fact that we can develop these things like philosophy and science, and grow, spiritually as well as intelligently, and I think that's what here. Now, there are going to be some people who are going to be sceptical. Of course there are. There's people who are sceptical about the fact that we've landed in the moon. Doesn't make it untrue. People say, "Oh, you don't say anything about you see this, you don't see that." People are sceptical about a lot of things. Some people are sceptical about the fact that Elvis died. Some people are sceptical about a lot of things. Again, some things that are true, some things that are untrue. Again, whether God exists is an unknown. So whether he exists or not, I don't know. You don't know. All we can do is come to our own, reasoned outlook on it, and to say that's what I think is probably the more probable, and just live with the consequences of that thought. It's not in any way saying, oh well, I'm not like the funny type that's going to tell you that you're going to burn in hell. Even if I did believe in the fire, rage of hell, because again, I can't tell you who's in the book of life. Even if I did believe in, even if there was like a fire pit, that blah blah blah, which there isn't, but even if there was a separation for God, which seems to be more suitable to what the theology actually posit. But let's say there is, again, who's in it, I don't know. Who is separated from God, I don't know, because only God knows. And again, I don't like speaking for him.
Final question is, given that Ra, the sun god from ancient Egypt, or Amun-Ra, or whatever, I know Gary doesn't think he was a god, and doesn't think Amun-Ra was a sun god, but that's a matter of opinion from a book he's read. I'm just going with the consensus here, and the consensus is that Amun-Ra and Ra were sun gods. Considering that he has sent a message to the whole world in the form of a miracle, a moving statue, are you going to convert? So there you go, my 5 questions. And I'd be interested to hear any responses. You can do a video response if you wish, or you can just leave some comments down below. Feel free to comment, rate or subscribe as usual. And thanks for watching. TomTomPiper signing off. Goodbye.
The consensus is what I said. Amun-Ra. Ra does not exist in Egyptian theology. Amun-Ra does. And he has no connection to Amen. Amun-Ra is his name, and it's what he's basically. Now, the consensus is that there isn't a sun god in Egyptian theology. There just isn't. There isn't a sky god, there isn't a moon god, there isn't a god of agriculture, there isn't... Those things do not occur in Egyptian religion. Now, it's pretty hard for people who are in the West to understand this, so I'm going to get pretty in-depth on this in a minute, but I'll put some sites so he can have a look. Again, this is not just one person who thinks this is a load of people, because this is what we've learned from since we translated the hieroglyphs, used the Rosetta Stone. Now, what he's basing it upon is the Greek Hellenistic versions and not the true interpretation of. Because what Alexander the Great did is that when they invaded Egypt, they basically posted their ideas of the gods. So basically, the gods were now set, which isn't really what happened. Because the gods would flip-flop and change. It would depend on the situation, It depended on a lot of factors. It depended on what was occurring in Egypt at the time, who the pharaoh was, what god he was, what the godly incarnation of was. But they tended to be Horus. They tended to be the embodiment of Horus on Earth. So Amun-Ra was basically one of the pharaohs, and again, there was no sun god. He was the aspect of light. He was the aspects of light. I think he was the god of the streams in some cases, but again, it can change. There's now again, could he have been god of the sun in one of those? Possibly. They're very doubtful because they didn't do stuff like that in Egyptian religion. What you need to understand again, this is something that a lot of people say isn't true, but again is. Now, what usually you'll find people doing this is people who have a tangential understanding of the Egyptian religion, but not really a significant one. Now, Amun-Ra statue apparently in Manchester moves. It doesn't move, it's an optical illusion. But am I going to switch to worshipping the Egyptian pantheon? No, but again, I'm not your typical Christian. That's the problem. Is that I'm a deist Christian, moral Christian, who follows the teachings of the ancient church, but is considering moving to Quakerism because he likes the more traditional aspects of that church. But again, I call myself a deist because again, that's closer to my view of God. My view of Christianity, however, is a little bit different because I tend to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. That's the reason I call myself a Christian. I don't call myself a Christian because I'm fully into, the Christian God, blah, 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 blah. Because again, what is the Christian God? What is the Hindu God? There is always a creator God in those things. There's always a creator being. And why can't they all be the same thing? In the same way that, in the Egyptian pantheon there's a creator God. So yeah, I believe in the Egyptian pantheon to an extent in that they believed in a creator God. There's a creator God in the Greek pantheon. There was a creator God in the Roman pantheon. There's a creator God in most the Wiccan states. I follow. I don't even say in atheism there's a creative force. I wouldn't say it's God, but it's maybe what we would classify as nature. So why can't I use? So you can see God is in the same way that Einstein does in it. So again, I do believe in the Egyptian pantheon, but not probably in the way that TomTomPiper means. Anyway, this has been Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, 4 Dreams Make a True Out.